22 acres of heritage lavender, plants that supplied the British royal family for over a century, now nothing but ash and smoke, standing in the smoldering remains. Edward Langley looked down at the only thing the fire hadn't entirely consumed.
4 generations. The royal warrant, gone.
This wasn't supposed to happen. It was just supposed to be one row.
The Crown's exclusive supply. Buckingham Palace will treat this as a matter of state.
Propane torch. Serial number traces back to a purchase 3 days ago. It's arson.
Flowers attract bees, and one woman's pettiness just attracted royal consequences.
You have no idea what you've burned. That warrant was more than a piece of paper.
It was just a message. I never meant for it to spread this far.
But the message she sent reached all the way to Buckingham Palace. 6 months earlier, Edward Langley's lavender farm looked very different. The rows of purple stretched to the horizon, and the air smelled like calm itself.
4 generations. The soil remembers my grandfather's hands.
Inside the farmhouse, a framed certificate held pride of place, a royal warrant issued by Queen Victoria herself, granting the Langley family the exclusive right to supply lavender oil to the British royal household.
A supplier to Buckingham Palace. That certificate made this land sacred.
Then, one afternoon, the mail brought something that didn't belong.
What's this? The HOA never sends anything but meeting minutes.
The Langley farm must immediately cease cultivation of all lavender crops due to reported allergic reactions from a neighboring resident.
Allergic to lavender? In a town named after it.
It was signed by Stephanie Cross, HOA chair, and she wasn't asking. A few days later, a white Range Rover pulled up the gravel drive, and Stephanie Cross stepped out with purpose.
Mr. Langley, I am Stephanie Cross, HOA chair. We need to talk about your lavender.
I received your letter. No civil conversation starts with a demand.
I am not here to debate. Those flowers are a health hazard. You'll switch to something less aromatic or face fines.
This farm supplies the Crown. The royal warrant grants me certain rights. Your fines don't apply.
Royal warrant? That's adorable. A piece of paper won't stop the HOA from protecting residents' health.
It's more than a piece of paper. It's a contract with the British monarchy. I suggest you reconsider.
I'll consider nothing. You'll hear from our attorney. And if you are smart, you'll pull those plants before I make your life very difficult.
She turned on her heel, gravel crunching, and didn't look back.
That woman has no idea what she's poking. The Crown doesn't forget.
That evening, Stephanie Cross set up her ring light and went live to her thousands of followers.
Our HOA is fighting to protect families from a toxic lavender farm, right here in our community. Share if you care about clean air.
The next morning, Edward drove to Denver and hired Anita Sharma, a top property attorney.
She's painting me as a public threat. I need to shut this down before she escalates further.
We'll issue a cease and desist citing the royal warrant. That carries serious weight, especially with diplomatic implications.
Anita drafted a stern letter referencing the farm's protected legal status. Any further harassment or threats will trigger legal action for damages and a formal complaint to the British Embassy. But the HOA board meeting that week proved Stephanie had her own agenda.
I moved to place a lien on the Langley property for violating community health codes. All in favor say aye.
A certified letter arrived the next day. A $22,000 lien, approved unanimously. Within hours, Stephanie's TikTok had 300,000 views. The comments were a cesspool of threats and accusations.
They're calling me a poisoner. This farm saved lives during the war.
By the weekend, a hand-painted sign appeared on a neighbor's lawn. No lavender stinks.
Anita, they're turning the whole town against me. The lien is just the start.
Anita Sharma documented every post, every sign, every abusive message, pattern of harassment, she wrote in her notes. Across town, Stephanie Cross walked the aisles of a hardware store, pulling a propane torch off the shelf.
A little fire sends a big message. He'll learn to respect the HOA.
She paid cash, avoiding the club card, and loaded the canisters into her SUV. Anita filed an emergency motion to lift the lien, citing malicious prosecution and abuse of HOA power. But on the other side of town, Stephanie Cross had already made a different purchase. 3 nights later, Edward walked his fence line and found fresh tire tracks, cutting deep into the soft soil.
That's not the delivery truck. Someone's been here after dark.
He installed motion-activated cameras on the barn and along the lavender rows. The next morning, the footage showed a white SUV rolling in at 2 a.m.
A Range Rover. That's her SUV. She came at 2 in the morning. Why? Anita. I have security footage of Stephanie's car on my land at night. She was here for over an hour.
Trespassing is a misdemeanor, but we can use it to support a protective order. Don't confront her directly.
Don't confront her. Sit and wait while she plans God knows what.
He sat beside the monitor that night, watching the empty field, the camera's green glow the only light. But whatever Stephanie was planning, she hadn't finished yet. In the dead of night, Stephanie Cross crouched in the lavender row, pressed the striker, and the first plant bloomed into orange fire.
Just a few plants. A warning. He'll understand the HOA isn't kidding.
But before she could pull back, a gust of dry wind funneled down the row, and the fire leaped 20 feet in a heartbeat.
No, this isn't what I wanted.
The flames raced along the dry stalks like a lit fuse, jumping from bush to bush with a hungry roar. In minutes, the entire 22 acres were an inferno, the farmhouse windows glowing orange before they shattered from the heat.
Film it. Blame the weather. Nobody can know I was here.
She raised her phone and hit record, the fire a writhing backdrop, and began a performance of panic.
Oh my God, the whole field is burning. Dry weather. It just caught fire. I don't know what happened.
That video had 200,000 views before the fire trucks even arrived, and her face was the thumbnail. Edward Langley got the call at 4 a.m. He drove through smoke so thick the headlights barely cut it, and when he crested the hill, his farm was a black scar against the morning sky.
22 acres. 4 generations. All of it. Gone in one night.
Firefighters still doused hotspots, their hoses hissing against the blackened ground. The barn was a twisted skeleton of iron and charred wood.
We've contained it, but there's nothing left to save. I am sorry, Mr. Langley.
Edward stumbled through the rubble of the farmhouse, the floor joists still smoking until his boot caught on, something half buried.
The royal warrant. The one thing that made this land sacred.
Across town, Stephanie Cross sat in her living room, the morning news playing footage of the inferno she had caused.
They're saying it's suspicious. Number. They can't trace it back to me. I was careful.
But Edward wasn't thinking about who had done it. He was staring at that singed certificate, the wax seal still faintly intact, and calculating the cost. The royal supply was gone, and when Buckingham Palace learned the truth, the consequences would reach far beyond this ash-covered field. By noon, Stephanie's video had passed 1 million views. Viewers slowed it down, zoomed in, and spotted the propane torch glinting on the ground behind her. Comments exploded. That's not dry weather. She brought a torch. Look at her shadow. She lit it and ran. The hashtag number Arson Karen trended across 3 platforms. Then the BBC World News ran a segment. The Langley farm, a royal warrant holder supplying the British royal household, has been entirely destroyed. Edward sat on the edge of a threadbare motel bed, staring at the BBC broadcast. The anchor looked into the camera, her voice heavy.
They're saying my name. The farm, the warrant, all of it. She didn't just burn plants. She burned a piece of history.
Outside her own home, Stephanie Cross faced a local news crew, her pink blouse replaced by a crisp white blouse, crocodile tears ready.
I have no idea how this happened. Dry conditions, global warming. It's tragic. I was just filming a vlog.
But online, the sleuths were relentless. They cross-referenced her shadow's movement with the fire's origin, mapped the torch's position, and even matched the fuel brand to a hardware store she'd visited. BBC's follow-up report explicitly linked the arson to the royal warrant, quoting a Buckingham Palace aide. Her Majesty is deeply concerned. In that motel room, Edward rewound the video again. The woman who'd demanded he pull his lavender was now the prime suspect in an international incident. Fire Marshal Landon Burke sifted through the ash until his tweezers closed around a warped propane nozzle. Back in the lab, the serial number was still legible. It traced directly to a hardware store purchase made 3 days before the fire. The credit card reader had captured the exact time and the name Stephanie Cross.
Mr. Langley, Miss Sharma, we have the torch. Serial number matches, purchased by Stephanie Cross using her personal credit card.
She didn't even have the sense to pay cash for the torch. She handed them her name.
This is probable cause for arrest. I'll coordinate with the district attorney. She'll face federal charges. The royal warrant makes this an international incident.
By sunset, 2 sheriff's cruisers pulled into Stephanie Cross's pristine driveway. She was filling her bird feeder when the cuffs clicked shut.
This is absurd. I am an HOA chair. I have connections. You can't do this to me.
She was booked on first-degree arson, with an enhancement for diplomatic relations impact. The mugshot would become the most shared image on social media for a week.
She'll face a court, but no verdict can bring back the oil. The Crown's supply is gone, and that clock is still ticking.
Justice had begun, but Edward Langley still had nothing to send to Buckingham Palace, and Her Majesty's patience was not infinite. 2 days after the arrest, a black sedan with a Union Jack pennant pulled up to the motel. Sir Reginald Hawthorne stepped out, clutching a leather portfolio.
The embassy. They wouldn't come unless the warrant itself is at risk.
Mr. Langley, I am Sir Reginald Hawthorne, British Embassy. May I have a word? It's rather urgent.
Sir Reginald, I wasn't expecting. Please, come in. What's happened?
I am afraid I bear unfortunate news. The fire has reached the royal household. The Crown supply is completely gone. Under the terms of the royal warrant, you are required to provide immediate replacement. Failing that, the warrant will be revoked.
The royal household requires immediate replacement of the exclusive Lavender oil supply. Failure to deliver within 90 days will result in revocation of the royal warrant.
90 days. The fields are ash. There is no oil. 4 generations of faith, and I have nothing to give them.
I am truly sorry, Mr. Langley. The Crown values your family's long service, but protocol is protocol.
The sedan pulled away, leaving Edward alone with the weight of a monarchy's ultimatum. The next morning, Edward walked into the gleaming offices of Webb Naturals. Marcus Webb was waiting, a sharp-suited man who had coveted the royal warrant for years.
You've been trying to acquire my contract for years. I suppose you've seen the news.
I have. And I am sorry about your farm, Edward. But this doesn't have to be a funeral. We can keep the warrant alive.
I need a sub-license. You take over the supply immediately, pay me a lump sum, and I retain the heritage rights.
4.8 million. One-time payment. You retain the certificate, but we fulfill the order. The Crown stays supplied.
Taking money from a rival. Grandpa would hate this, but the alternative is losing the warrant forever.
Edward picked up the pen. The contract was thick with clauses, but the number on the first page was the only one that mattered. When the ink dried, Marcus slid a cashier's check across the polished wood.
This isn't a victory, Marcus. It's a survival. Don't forget that.
Edward walked out of the glass tower with a check for $4.8 million. The warrant was safe, but 22 acres of ash still waited, and so did Stephanie Cross's court date. Stephanie Cross arrived at the federal courthouse in an orange jumpsuit, the press a frenzy outside. Inside, Anita Sharma stood with a document that would shift the entire case.
Your Honor, the HOA bylaws contain a clause the defense missed. Section 14.
Any member causing extraordinary economic damage through willful misconduct shall be personally liable. Anita projected the clause onto the screen, and the judge removed her glasses, leaning forward intently.
The royal warrant sublicense cost Mr. Langley $4.8 million. That loss is directly from the arson.
Personal liability? They can't take my house. I am the HOA chair.
Stephanie's attorney flipped pages in panic, his face ashen. The judge's expression sharpened.
She wanted to send a message. Now she'll lose her own home.
The judge banged her gavel and set a hearing on the liability motion for Monday. For the first time, Stephanie Cross looked genuinely terrified. Monday morning, Anita Sharma stood before the judge, holding the motion for summary judgment.
Your Honor, We move to enforce personal liability under the HOA bylaw. The economic damage is documented at 4.8 million.
She projected the sublicense contract and the cashier's check onto the screen for the court record.
They can't take my home. I'll appeal every single ruling until they go bankrupt.
Then Anita played the TikTok video. Stephanie's own voice echoed through the courtroom, panic and lies preserved in high definition.
The defendant's own words, Your Honor. She was there. She admits to witnessing the fire's start.
Edward was called. He approached the stand with a gait that carried the weight of ash.
My family supplied the crown for over a century. That woman burned it down. I am not here for revenge. I am here for accountability.
The judge reviewed the exhibits for a long moment. Then she set a date for a ruling on the seizure motion. Stephanie's house stood silent on its manicured lawn. The hearing for its seizure was now 3 days away. The hearing on the seizure motion was swift. Anita Sharma rose one final time.
Your Honor, the defendant's willful misconduct destroyed a royal warrant holder. The bylaw is clear. We ask the court to order the sale of her primary residence.
The judge barely took a breath. Her gavel came down like a final nail. Motion granted. The defendant's house will be seized and auctioned to satisfy the $4.8 million judgment, plus legal fees.
My house. The only thing I have left.
Stephanie Cross slid from her chair, a sound escaping her that was not quite a scream.
Accountability, not revenge. But it feels the same today.
The judge set the auction date for 30 days out. A public sale on her own front lawn. Stephanie's attorney was already whispering about appeals, but the order was enforceable immediately. Edward folded his hands and watched her being led away. The farm was ash, but the warrant was active, and the bill was coming due. A month later, a crowd filled Stephanie Cross's lawn. A sheriff's deputy posted the auction notice, and auctioneer Vince tested his microphone.
We begin the bidding at $1 million. Do I hear 1 million?
Paddles rose. The price jumped. 1.5, 2 million. The crowd fed on the spectacle.
She tried to destroy me. Now her home is auctioned on her own grass.
3 million from the man in back. Going once, going twice.
The gavel struck. Sold for 3.2 million. The final bid rang out, and the crowd burst into applause.
3.2 covers the judgment. Edward, combined with her other seized assets, you are whole.
Whole. But the smell of ash still clings.
Edward watched the buyers collect their deeds. The weight settled on him, not victory, just a quiet end. The auctioneer packed his gavel. The crowd left, and Edward turned toward the fields, still black with ash. With the settlement, Edward ordered 2,000 lavender plants and began the slow work of renewal.
Tiny shoots, new roots. This ground remembers life. It remembers before the fire.
While the field healed, he hired a crew for the barn. The frame went up in a week.
New wood. Same foundation. Grandpa built the first barn. I am building the one that will outlast me.
Then back to the rows. Every morning, he knelt in the dirt, pressing hope into the ash. The green spread. Row by row, the farm reclaimed its color. A package from the British Embassy arrived. Inside, a new royal warrant, the seal embossed and fresh.
The crown hasn't forgotten. This piece of paper is our legacy, and it's safe.
Back in the barn, he hung the certificate where the old one had been. The farm was coming back. But the woman who set the flame was still waiting for her day in court. The final court date came on a gray autumn morning. Stephanie Cross stood in the same orange jumpsuit. The judge's voice was flat, reciting the findings. Federal arson. Enhancement for diplomatic relations. Then she paused and looked directly at Stephanie. The TikTok video you recorded was a self-serving admission of guilt. You are sentenced to 8 years.
8 years. For a field of flowers. For a spark that got away from me.
The gavel came down. The sound was absolute. The marshals took her by the arms. For the first time, she didn't resist. No more pink blouses, no more ring lights. Just a gray cell and a window that showed nothing.
I wanted to send a message. Now the only message is me. Here everyone gone.
Across the valley, lavender blooms caught the last light. And Edward Langley didn't look back. Months passed. The lavender grew high, and the first full harvest was weeks away.
The air smells like calm again. Not smoke, not loss, just lavender.
On the barn wall, the new royal warrant caught the afternoon light. The seal was unbroken. The ink was fresh.
A piece of paper, but it holds 4 generations of faith. It holds our name.
He walked the rows, the purple stretching to the hills. Bees hummed in the stillness.
This ground forgave the fire. So did I.
Back in the farmhouse, orders were coming in. The new oil pressed from the same soil, the crown's supply restored.
We're still the Langley farm, and we always will be.
Outside, the lavender fields rolled like a purple sea, unchanged in a way that defied the months of ash. And Edward Langley, standing at his window, finally allowed himself a quiet smile. 100 miles away, Stephanie Cross pressed her palm against reinforced glass. The window faced a concrete yard, but if she tilted her head, the faint ghost of purple rose flickered in the reflection.
I used to walk through lavender and complain about the smell. Now I'd give anything to smell it again.
She had once owned everything. Now, the only thing that belonged to her was the regret. Flowers attract bees. Some people attract consequences. The prison guard called for count, and Stephanie pulled her hand away. The reflection vanished. Outside, the world had moved on. The lavender fields bloomed, the crown had its oil, and Edward Langley slept soundly. But behind that glass, the air never smelled of anything but concrete and regret. Some fires can't be put out. But this one had done its work, and the consequences were etched in a mugshot and a cell number. And in a field of purple, the bees didn't care. They just kept buzzing. Edward walked the lavender row as the sun broke gold across the valley. The air was heavy with calm.
She complained that flowers attract bees, as if nature needed her permission.
A bee hummed past his shoulder and settled on a purple bloom.
The same bees that fill Buckingham Palace's halls with the scent of my family's land.
He stopped and looked across the valley, the rose stretching like a violet sea.
I never blamed them. They were just doing what bees do.
The evening light stretched long and amber across the fields, painting the world in quiet gold. Flowers attract bees. Some people attract consequences. Edward touched a lavender bloom and walked on, the hum of bees his only companion, the old warrant secure in the barn. And in the field, the bees didn't care about courtrooms or prison cells. They just kept working, one flower at a time. The sun dipped behind the restored barn, painting the new wood in shades of amber. Inside, the royal warrant hung quietly on the wall, its fresh seal catching the last daylight. Outside, Edward stood at the edge of the field, his boots planted in soil that once knew nothing but ash. The lavender stretched in perfect rows to the horizon, a violet sea breathing with the evening breeze. He didn't speak. He just let the hum of bees fill the silence, older than any courtroom's verdict. For 150 years, this land had given its oil to kings and queens, a quiet tradition in every bloom. It had survived droughts, recessions, and a woman with a propane torch. Now, the new shoots were strong enough to hold the weight of a crown, and the earth remembered how to heal. Edward turned back toward the farmhouse, where barn lights flickered on, against the deepening dusk, and in the quiet of the valley, the Langley farm endured, rooted in soil that forgave, loyal to a crown that never forgot.